talking to you about something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is anxiety and depression, and my experience with it, and in fact how I wasn't actually aware that I had it, which some of you may relate to. This is all coming back to the reasons I went and painted myself blue for charity and for Beyond Blue, which is supporting the millions of people right now experiencing anxiety and depression. So some of us are aware that we have it, some of us have had doctors tell us, or whatever the case may be, some of us are medicating ourselves, and some of us haven't even heard that perhaps yoga can help to combat anxiety and depression. So I'm going to share a little bit on that, but it's going to start with my story. And I was one of those people that wasn't at all aware that I was experiencing anxiety. I was 24 years of age, and at the time I was studying public relations in Melbourne at Swinburne TAFE there in Paran. Had some great friends, I was having a great time. In fact, I was a natural born leader, a great communicator. I was really like the extrovert in the group, always wanting to go out and plan the next Saturday night events and that sort of thing. But quietly, behind the scenes, I was suffering and I wasn't aware that I was. And looking back now, I can see that I was. It wasn't until I discovered yoga, and then it kind of like fell by the wayside, and all of a sudden I didn't get these feelings anymore. So let me just describe a typical day for me. I would arrive and say hello to friends at uni, and then I would be sitting in a typical classroom environment, which I know you can all relate to. And let's just say the teacher was to ask me a question. Okay, now I was confident with my answers because I was a fairly confident person, but there was just something that came over me that all of a sudden, when heads turned to look at me, I would get this feeling in the base of my stomach first, and it'd sort of all like clamp up like this, and then it'd travel up into my throat, into my chest, into my throat. And it would in fact affect my speech and the way I was able to deliver that answer, okay? Not only that, but this is the really embarrassing bit, I would turn red. And to those of you who are experiencing this sort of thing, it's really embarrassing, because what happens is all these beautiful human beings around you who are your so-called friends will actually point out, hey, look, Lauren's turning red. Hey, are you blushing? You must like that guy, yeah? And they go and make it mean something. Well, that happened to me. So not only was I feeling the tension rise, unable to get the right words out, but I was also visually showing signs that I was uncomfortable in that situation. It wasn't just in the classroom, it then moved into the playground, let's call it. So when I was out socializing or having lunch with friends, people would turn and ask me a question, and whether it was a male or a female, it wasn't even gender dominated. It was anybody, they would ask me, and usually I'd love the center of attention, and all of a sudden I just did not want to be the center of attention. Okay, I wanted to be one of the outsiders. It was quiet and no one spoke to me, because again, I would feel all red and uncomfortable, and people would say, why are you blushing? So I sort of suffered in silence for quite a long time there. My boyfriend at the time, I remember he was quite a few years older than me, and I remember sitting at his place, and he'd have older friends over, and they'd be reading newspapers and speaking about politics and things like that, which I had very little knowledge about. And again, I'd get these feelings. It would all show up in my face. I'd get really red and uncomfortable, and I didn't even know who to talk to. I didn't know why I was blushing all the time. So I went home. I was living with my parents at the time, and my mum and my sister were at home, and again, I'm usually used to openly speaking to them, and I got anxiety, not knowing it at the time, just trying to find the words to tell them what I was experiencing. So I went home and I said, Mum and Emily, I need to talk to you about something. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I got really emotional describing it. I said, I get really uncomfortable in the classroom, and I turn red and I blush, and I'm doing it all the time. And Mum, in her typical ways, tried to fix me, and she'd say, well, how have you tried doing this, or what about this, or think of something positive. And so of course I went on to try all these sort of things, but I had been trying for some time. My sister, bless her soul, she just loved me for what I was, and she reassured me that I was amazing and I was intelligent, and not to worry and don't let it bother me. But that's all well and good when your friends and family support you and love you. But I didn't actually know how to get myself better and how to stop turning red. So I'm sorry to tell you, but there wasn't actually a particular turning point, but something did happen in my life. I went on to finish the course. I started a business actually in Melbourne called Spiral PR, and I met the man who I ended up marrying, and I was, I thought I was in a really good place, and still I'd get these feelings, and I'd share it with my soon-to-be husband, that I would feel really uncomfortable in social situations. It was probably what you now refer to as a social anxiety. And he was really supportive as well and told me not to worry about anything and that I was amazing and beautiful, but that wasn't fixing my problem. The two of us went on to actually discover yoga as like a hobby, really. And I started to really enjoy the practice, and more on that another time, but the physical benefits, the mental and spiritual and emotional benefits became something that I suppose I became really addicted to. I went on to do teacher training, and we do full circle. We went on to start businesses together in yoga studios, and that's how we got to the Sunshine Coast, opening a studio here. But here I was still quietly not knowing that I was experiencing anxiety. And I can't say when it happened, but along the way of delving deep into the yoga practice and doing it every day, whether it's physically practicing yoga or mentally and being yoga wherever you are, it went. It just vanished. I didn't feel like uncomfortable anymore. I didn't get these feelings in my stomach and then into my chest, into my throat, and where I can't find the words. And I was able to speak openly and open-heartedly, and I felt confident. And it's like I got my confidence back. And that was this amazing realization that yoga it does help so many. And then I suppose I got confirmation, because I'd get a lot of clients coming into me, and often they don't tell me that they're suffering anxiety or depression when they're filling out the form and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, I have depression or anxiety." Usually the confessions come a bit later, where they'll say, "I've really enjoyed the practice because in fact I had anxiety, or my doctor suggested I come because I'm taking medication." And I'd see people, start to transform and start to shine and start to be more confident and combat the suffering that they were having quietly as well. And they'd come and say thank you to me, which I always say they're thanking yoga. And they would thank yoga for helping them as well. It doesn't stop there. I went on, as I said, to be married, to have 2 children. We had 2 studios running in Melbourne, and we moved up to the Sunshine Coast. And looking back now, that was a really anxious time for me, because we left businesses running in Melbourne and we're living in Queensland, and we didn't have a lot of support around us, and it was just our family. And we opened a studio here on the Sunshine Coast, which is still here, Zenko Yoga. And within probably 12 months, things at home weren't very healthy, and I had to actually leave my husband, and we separated. So during that intense and dark time of my life, I had to show up for my children, and I had to be the very best version of myself. It wasn't just children that were in my life. I also had a whole community, of hundreds of members and clients that were coming to my classes every day. And I would literally be drying tears from my eyes and opening up that door and shining and facilitating the yoga, which was healing me the whole time. And you see, by now I've already have the awareness, and this is the key point, this is the key difference, right? I've got the awareness that I'm experiencing anxiety. So I would feel it come up in the belly, sit with it, see what it is, and then just breathe it away. And all of a sudden I'm using my yoga tools to deal with this anxiety that I was having. And people would come in and go about their class and their normal day. And it was only probably a sprinkling of people that I shared, probably really friends, and the rest of my teachers, my staff all knew that I was going through a separation at the time. And I remember people saying to me, "How do you do it? How do you stay strong? And you're so amazing, and you seem so happy." And although I wasn't always amazing and strong and happy, I chose to be. And that's why I'm grateful for yoga, because I felt the sadness. I can still feel it. I feel the sadness, I felt the anger, I felt the concern and the guilt over, taking my children away from their father. Like, all these sort of feelings came up for me, but I kept holding on to the fact that I have to be that shining light, that I know I'm doing the right thing. So again, I have yoga to thank for that. That was a good probably 15 months ago now, and I have come full circle from being in a dark place, separated, moving out on my own and with my children, and taking over the business. So I retained the business as part of the separation. So I had to relearn everything. My husband was the backbone of the business. I didn't know all the technical business that went on behind the scenes. I was the front girl. I was the leader and the creative one and the visionary. So I had to learn for the first time, a lot of it, how to get in the back end of the website and how to become technical. There again, feelings of anxiety, but see it come, see it go. So this brings me to the reason, yogis, I went and painted myself blue. Okay, I stood there naked for 5 hours with 3 people painting my body, and I've posed, and I'm about to show you all the photos that I've been doing over a week. And if you can find it within you, if you're wanting to buy my Yoga for Anxiety DVD, there's a 10-minute guided meditation, a 20-minute seated flow, and a 30-minute standing flow. So you get 3 classes, which is 60 minutes for $30, and all proceeds are going to Beyond Blue, charity organisation for supporting those suffering with anxiety and depression and raising awareness. So if you can perhaps relate to anything that I've shared in this video today, then why don't you get yourself one of my DVDs. It's only $30. All the links are in the comments below and above, and make a contribution to Beyond Blue. And that way I can help share my story and enable those that might be experiencing anxiety and depression like I have, to combat that and to find the tools and to learn how to do that so that you can be happy, fulfilled, positive and content when you wake up in the morning. You deserve to. We are here in this planet for one short little time. Why wouldn't you choose to wake up feeling positive about the day ahead of you? There's so many people that do not feel that. And there are tools that we can teach you through the practice where you can release all of that and become the best version of yourself. Okay, we start to look at the negative thoughts that we have, and our negative thoughts end up coming into the body. So our innermost thoughts become our outermost reality. So time to shift, time to change. Join me, buy the DVD, support Beyond Blue, and find yoga. I have an online yoga studio. I've got plenty of premium online content there for you to look at and to view. It's $19 a month if you want to join the studio. If you're living on the Sunshine Coast, why don't you come down and check out my studio? Otherwise, find a yoga studio near you and join the tribe. Get on your mat. Whatever happens on your mat happens outside as well on your off-mat life. And eventually everything just becomes one pure blend of contentment and enlightenment and fulfillment, which you can have. I promise you that. It's an honor to share my journey with each and every one of you. Thank you for supporting Beyond Blue and perhaps helping others find the tools to heal themselves. Namaste.